Hello, everyone. Just starting up. We are using a new platform to stream across different channels. So give me one moment, just making sure that everything runs well. But we're about to begin. Thank you all for joining today and welcome. Welcome. All right. This is wonderful. Hello, hello, everyone. Some nice music in the background as well while everyone is joining. All right. So we have a new background today. A couple of new services, I guess, that we're using to do the streaming, and it seems to be working pretty well. So, one of my colleagues just confirmed that it all looks good. I've checked it myself as well, so I think we should be good to start. So, without further ado, let me just make sure here that I'm not stuck in multiple pages here. One moment. All right, this is good. I think we're good. I think we're live. All right, and I got the chat as well. Perfect. I can see everything. All right. So, once again, hello, guys. Hello, everyone. Once again, welcome. Welcome to today's webinar. My name is Stan, as always, partner and client executive at Cleverence. So, let's go. Let's start this up. Excited. We're doing a new time here today as well. So, can cover more. Pretty much should be a great time for everyone. All right. So, let's start. And I want to start with a question today. And I want you to hold this question in your mind throughout today's session. The question is this: when was the last time your company invested in a technology solution and it didn't quite deliver what you expected? Maybe it took longer to implement than planned. Maybe the team never fully adopted it. Maybe it worked, but the ROI was much harder to demonstrate than the vendor suggested. If that resonates, you're not alone. It's one of the most common experiences in business technology investment. And it's not because the technology was bad, it's usually because the fit was wrong. I got this chair out of the way. Today, we're going to talk about how to get that fit right, how to choose automation technology that actually matches the way your business operates, the team you have, and the resources available to you. Rather than the technology that looks impressive in a demo and becomes a maintenance burden 6 months later. This is a client webinar, not a sales pitch. My goal today is to give you a framework you can use, whether you're evaluating Cleverance, of course, but as well as if you are already looking into other solutions in this space. So let's get into it. I already quickly, briefly introduced myself, but let me just kind of give you a little bit more information about me. So I've spent over 10 years working in warehouse and inventory management automation, as well as a couple of years working specifically in warehousing. So I know all the ins and outs. And before moving into my current role, I was directly involved by implementing these solutions across a wide range of industries, wholesale distributors, automotive dealerships, manufacturers, and e-commerce operators of all sizes. I share that background because the perspective I'm bringing today is practitioner level, as they call. I've been inside business during the evaluation process, through implementation, and through the point where a team either fully adopts a solution or quietly abandons it. I've seen both outcomes more times than I would like. What I'm going to share with you is what I've learned from these experiences, structured into a framework you can actually apply before making your next automation investment. And I think I'm on the wrong slide. There we go. That's what was supposed to be there, but you get the point. My contact details are going to be on the last slide as well. So if anything in today's session raises a question about your specific situation, I'm genuinely available. Reach out directly after the session and we'll have a real conversation. And of course, you can communicate in the comments with me as well. So now let's go to the next slide. There we go. Webinar plan. Right. Here's what we're covering. We'll start with what I call the automation trap, the pattern that causes most automation investments to under deliver, and why most advanced often isn't the same as best fit. From there, we'll build the fit framework. It's essentially a three-dimensional model you can use to evaluate why automation solution against your actual business reality. Evaluate any automation solution, right, against your actual reality in your business. Then we'll work through three key questions to ask before signing any contract. After that, a practical phased approach to automation that dramatically reduces risk and improves your chances of successful adoption. And of course, we'll look at how Cleverence specifically checks the boxes this framework identifies. And we'll close with a real case study from UAE business that went through exactly this process and came out the other side with results worth talking about. And as with our previous sessions, everyone who attends today walks away with a free guide. More on that at the end. So let's move. The automation paradox. Let me describe a pattern I've seen play out many times across companies of very different sizes and sectors. I call it the automation paradox, and it goes something like this. A company decides to automate. They do their research, they evaluate options, and they select what looks like the most capable solution available. Usually that's the one with the longest feature list, the most impressive demo, the biggest brand name. So they sign the contract, they start implementation, and 6 months later, they're using about 20% of the features that they've paid for. This is not an exaggeration. Research consistently shows that enterprise software utilization rates hover around 20 to 30% of available functionality. The rest sits unused, either because it wasn't needed, or because the team couldn't figure out how to use it, or because the implementation never quite got there. At the same time, team starts working around the system rather than within it. Hopefully that makes sense. The solution that was supposed to eliminate complexity adds a new layer of it. Integration with existing systems. The ERP, the WMS, the accounting platform turns out to cost far more than the software itself. And when the company tries to expand into new geographies with new business units, new markets in Latin America, North America, the system that was supposed to scale reveals its limits. The bottom line, and I want you to write this down, more features do not equal more value. Value comes from fit. So when it actually fits to your needs, not from capability you don't use. So why does the most advanced option usually keeps failing? Let's go deeper on that. On to the next slide. There are four specific reasons why the most advanced option tends to fall and fail in practice. Understanding them is what allows you to avoid them. The first is vendor type versus business reality. Vendors are very good at demonstrating their product in ideal conditions, a clean data set, a controlled environment, a use case specifically, designed to make these features shine. What they don't show you is what the implementation looks like on your messy real world data with your specific ERP, with your team. The gap between the demo and day one of live operations is where the most implementations start to go sideways. The second is over engineering for problems you don't have yet. It's tempting to buy for the business you want to be in 5 years rather than the business you are today. The problem is that you end up paying in license cost, implementation complexity, and training burden for capabilities your team won't need or use for years. A lighter, right sized solution that your team actually uses consistently will outperform a heavy one they partially adopt every single time. The third is hidden costs. That's another burden. The software price is rarely the real cost of an automation project. Implementation consultants, setup time, data migration, integration work, training, etc. These regularly add 50 to 100% on top of the initial software budget. Integration alone, connecting the new tool to your existing ERP or WMS, often accounts for 30 to 50% of the total project cost. If you haven't modeled those numbers before signing, you are flying blind, essentially. So the fourth is team resistance. And let's get into this one. When technology doesn't match the skill level or working style of the people who have to use it every single day, adoption fails. Not loudly. Nobody announces they're abandoning the system yet, at least. I've seen that happen before as well. It just quietly gets worked around. Workarounds become the new process, and the investment returns nothing. So, if most advanced isn't the answer, what is? This is where the fit framework comes in. So, here's a framework I use when I'm working with a business to evaluate an automation solution, including when I'm working with clients evaluating Cleverence. I call it the FIT framework, and it has three dimensions. The first dimension is budget and resources. Essentially, the financial and capacity reality of your business today, not the aspiration. The second is operations and processes, how your business actually works, what systems you're already running, and how much change you can realistically absorb at this point. The third is team and culture, the people who are going to use this technology every day, their skill level, their comfort with change, and the realistic training investment you can make. A technology that fits in all three of these dimensions will be adopted. A technology that misses even one of them will struggle. And if it misses two, it will almost certainly fail to deliver meaningful value, regardless of how technically impressive it really is. So over the next few slides, I'm going to walk through each dimension in detail because the questions you need to answer within each one are specific and very important. Let's start with the first dimension, budget and resources. Here we are. The first dimension is budget and resources, and I want to spend a moment on why this goes beyond the obvious question of can we afford the software, right? These There are three elements here. The first is initial investment. This includes the software license or subscription, yes, but also the implementation cost, which, as I mentioned, can add significantly to the total. Before you evaluate any solution, you need a realistic all-in number, not just the per user or per license price the vendor quotes on page 1 of their proposal. The second is ongoing maintenance. What does the solution cost to run after its life? Does it require dedicated technical resources to maintain? How frequently does it need to be updated? Are there ongoing integration costs as your ERP or other systems evolve? A solution with a low entry price but high ongoing maintenance can actually cost and be more significantly expensive over a 3 to 5 year horizon than a slightly more expensive solution that is low maintenance by design. The third and most often overlooked is internal team capacity. Who inside your organization is going to own this system? Do you have the internal expertise to configure it, troubleshoot it, and evolve it as your business changes? If the answer requires hiring a specialist or relying permanently on external consultants, that's a resource cost that needs to be factored into the total. Budget fit means all three of these numbers are manageable, not just the one on the proposal. So let's go to the next dimension, and that one is where operations and processes come in. And it is operations and processes. This is the one that trips up the most implementations. The first question here is process compatibility. Does the solution require you to change how your business operates in order to use it? Or does it adapt to the way you already work? This distinction matters enormously. Every time a software implementation forces a business to change its operational processes, you're adding change management cost, training burden, and team resistance. The best solutions adapt to your processes. The worst ones force your processes to adapt to them. This doesn't mean a solution should never prompt process improvement. Sometimes it should, but there is a difference between a tool that helps you do what you already do better and one that requires you to rebuild how you operate from the ground up before you can even start using it. The second question is integration landscape. How well does the solution connect with the systems you're already running? Your ERP, your WMS, your accounting software. And critically, how much does that integration cost and how long does it take? I've seen integration projects double the total cost of an implementation. Asked to speak to reference customers running the same ERP before you commit. The third question is scalability, which is a big one. Will this solution handle 2 times, 5 times, 10 times your current volume without requiring a costly platform migration? If you're planning to grow, which most of the businesses try to do that, into new geographies, grow into new geographies, grow, new product lines, new markets, scale and expand. For all of that, you need to stress test the solution against that growth scenario, not just the current one. And the third dimension that we're speaking of today is the one that ultimately determines whether any of this matters, and it is team and culture. So this one is I've seen it cause the most silent failures because when a technology doesn't fit the team, the failure is invisible until it's too late. But it's very important to touch on this one, touch base on this third one. It's very important. There are three elements to assess here. The first is ease of use for the current team. Not for a power user, not for a technical project manager, for the actual warehouse worker, if we're talking about a warehouse, the logistics coordinator, the operations supervisor who is going to interact with the system every single day. Is the interface intuitive for their skill level and their working environment? Can they navigate it without consulting a manual? Can they use it effectively while wearing gloves, while moving, while handling goods, etc., etc.? The list goes on. So the second is the learning curve. How long until a new team member is productive using this system? If the answer is weeks or months of training, that's a significant ongoing cost, especially in environments with high staff turnover. The ideal solution gets a new worker productive in hours, not weeks. That kind of short learning curve is only possible when the interface is generally simple and the workflow guidance is built into the application itself. Um, the third is change management readiness. People resist change, not because they are obstructionist or obtuse, as they say, but because change creates uncertainty, and uncertainty feels like risk. So it feels like people feel uncomfortable with that. If your team perceives the new system as a threat to their job security, to their established routines, to their sense of competence, adoption will be passive at best and actively resistant at worst. So, do you have a plan to address that? Who is the internal champion for this project? How will you communicate the why to the people that it affects most? Technology that doesn't fit the team is worth zero, no matter how well it fits the budget or the operations. Now, let's apply this framework in practice, starting with the cost dimension and going deeper on what total cost of ownership really looks like. There we go. So, let me make the budget dimension concrete because I think this is where the most dangerous blind spots live. When a vendor gives you a price, they're typically quoting the software cost. So the subscription fee or perpetual license. That number is real, but it's rarely the number that matters most. What matters is the total cost of ownership or TCO over the useful life of the system. Here are the components that need to go into that calculation. Of course, software cost, subscription or perpetual license. This is the number you see first, but it's often the smallest component relative to everything else. Implementation, consultants, setup time, data migration. For any reasonably complex system, this alone can match or exceed the first year software cost. Integration, connecting the solution with your existing ERP, WMS, or accounting platform, as I've mentioned multiple times. I've said this before, and yeah, I'll say it again. Integration often counts for 30 to 50% of total project cost. If a vendor hasn't given you a clear integration estimate specific to your existing system, ask for it before you sign. Training, the hours required per role to get your team productive. Multiply that by your hourly labor cost and your headcount, and suddenly training has a real dollar value attached to it. Then we have maintenance, the internal resources required to manage, update, and evolve the system over time. This is the cost that compounds quietly year after year and is almost never factored into the initial business case. When you add all of these up, the right decision often looks different from the one you would make based on the software price alone. So, calculate the TCO always. Beyond cost, the second thing is to interrogate is whether the solution actually fits the way you work. So let's take a look at that. So before buying any automation solution, we need to dive deeper in and explore on whether it actually fits the way your business operates today. not the idealized version of your operations, the real version, like what it is right now. Be real with yourself. Process compatibility. This is the question of whether the tool adapts to your workflows or requires your workflows to adapt to it. There's a practical test for this. Basically, all you got to do is ask the vendor to demonstrate the solution using your actual processes, not generic receiving workflow, your receiving workflow against your document types with your exception scenarios. And on the last one, if you remember, we talked about exception scenarios. Very important. If anything, take a look at that one. If the demo requires them to significantly simplify or abstract your reality, the gap between demo and live is going to show up on day one of implementation. Integration landscape. How well does this solution connect with the specific systems you're running? Not ERPs in general, your ERP, not most WMS platforms, your WMS that you're using. Ask for reference customers who are running the same technology stack. If the vendor can't provide them, that's meaningful information. Scalability, that's a huge one. Will this platform handle the growth you're planning? If you're expanding into other regions or just overall just scaling, um, getting new product lines or new facilities, expanding, will the solution scale with you without requiring a platform migration? And specifically, what does scaling like? What is it? What is the scaling cost? What am I talking about? Is it linear? So like you add users, you pay proportionally, or does scaling require expensive upgrades or re-implementation? So all those things when we're scaling, so when we're expanding, et cetera, um, how how does that relate to the actual software that you're using? You need to understand that. So what is it going to be? What is going to be the cost? How much more are you going to be paying for, again, users? Is it going to be just adding additional software licenses and that's that, or there's going to have to be another full implementation for the new facility that you just opened? Those are very important things that you need to consider. So the best automation tool is one that fits into your existing operational flow. So it would just extend it intelligently and it would grow with you. If it requires you to reshape your operations before you can get any value from it, I would highly suggest to reconsider. And the third thing, the one that ultimately decides everything, is whether your team will actually use it. And let's take a look at the next slide here. There it is. The slide has a title that I believe is literally true. If your team won't use it, it's worth zero. Not less than expected, zero. Because an unused system generates no value, regardless of how technically capable it is. So how do you assess team fit before you buy? User experience. Is the interface generally intuitive for the people who will use it daily? Not for your IT team, not for the implementation consultant, not for the executive who approved the budget, for the warehouse picker, the receiving clerk, the inventory controller. Ask to put a prototype or trial version in front of two or three of those people before you commit. Watch how they interact with it without guidance. Their reaction tells you more than any demo. Learning curve. How long does it take a new team member to become productive? In high turnover environments, this question has enormous financial implications. A system that takes 4 weeks to learn adds significant cost every time you onboard a new hire. A system that takes 4 hours is a completely different story. Adoption barriers. What resistance might arise and from whom? Fear of job displacement is real, and ignoring it doesn't make it go away. So, is it the simpler concern of I've been doing this the same way for 5 years and now you want me to change? Anticipate these barriers before go live, not after. That's very important. Change management. Do you have a plan to support the transition? Who is the internal champion? who will you communicate the purpose of the change to the people most affected? A well chosen technology with poor change management will underperform. A moderately good technology with strong change management will often outperform it. So, again, very important, who is in charge and who is addressing all of these concerns and making sure that the new system is going to be working properly. And as I mentioned, could outperform what you initially thought of it, of what it could do. Now, where were we? I want to condense everything we've covered into three sharp questions, ones you can take into any vendor conversation. Have them on the next slide. Here's the first of three questions I want you to ask and answer honestly before committing to any automation solution. Question number one: what specific problem are we solving? Not we need to automate our warehouse, not we want to be more efficient. Those are directions, not problems. A problem has um, specificity, measurability, and a cost. The right version of this question sounds like we spend 15 hours per week reconciling inventory discrepancies that result from manual data entry errors. And those errors are costing us approximately X thousand of dollars per month in incorrect shipments and rework. That's a problem. You can measure it before and after. You can calculate the ROI. You can evaluate whether a proposed solution actually addresses it. The reason this question matters so much is that vague problems lead to vague solutions. If you don't know exactly what you're trying to fix, you can evaluate whether a given tool actually fixes it. And vendors, consciously or not, will fill that vagueness with a demo of their most impressive features, which may have nothing to do with your actual operational pain. So before you enter into any vendor conversation, write down the specific problem in one or two concrete sentences. Quantify it if you can. That statement is your North Star for the entire evaluation. Now, the second question is about your team's ability to use the solution without extraordinary effort. Um, so, can our team use this without extensive training? The question cuts through a lot of vendor demos pretty quickly because in a demo, everything looks intuitive. The person running it knows the system inside and out and makes it look effortless. The real test is whether someone who has never seen it before can figure it out. There's a simple way to test this. Ask for a trial or a pilot period before the full commitment. Put the actual tool in front of two or three of your operational team members, the people who will actually use it most, and give them a real task to perform. For example, receive, against this purchase order. There's 10 boxes of this product. Can you receive it properly? And let them rock. But don't coach them through it, of course. Watch what happens. If they struggle, that's your answer. If they figure it out quickly and instinctively, that's also, another answer for you right there. The warning sign the slide calls out is important. If adopting the solution requires hiring new specialists to operate or maintain it, you probably should reconsider. Not necessarily rejected, but sometimes specialized expertise is warranted. But the bar should be high. Every specialist you have to hire to run your automation system is a cost that sits on top of the system cost indefinitely. It also creates a key person dependency that makes the business fragile if that person leaves. So the goal is a system your current team can own, operate, and evolve. That's the sustainable outcome. Now, the third question is about integration. And it's the one most businesses ask too late. How easily does this integrate with our existing systems? That's the question from the slide. So yeah, that's a question that most buyers ask too late, usually after they have signed, when the integration project starts and the hidden complexity emerges. By that point, backing out is expensive and politically difficult. So ask it up front and ask it specifically, not does your platform integrate with ERP systems? Uh, no. That question will always get a yes. Ask, show me how you integrate with your specific ERP. What does your connector looks like? What data does it exchange? And how long does a standard integration take for a company our size? Then ask to speak to a customer who, maybe that vendor already has a customer who has done exactly that integration. Most of them, depending obviously on the vendor and the software, when they already got the integration ready, it's pretty much done and ready to go, and it's just the matter of adapting and customizing specifically to the client's request and how they have it set up. As remember I said a couple of slides ago, you want to have a system that adapts to the way you're currently doing things, not the other way around. Hopefully that made sense, but I'm sure it did. Now, let me get back to where was I? Where I was. The connection on the integration. Check those connectors. The difference between a native integration built and maintained by the vendor and the custom API integration that you're responsible for maintaining is enormous. Native connectors are faster to implement, more stable over time, and don't break every time the ERP releases an update. Custom integrations are expensive to build and fragile to maintain. So check APIs. If there's no native connector for your system, what does the API look like? Is it well documented? Are there examples of customers who have successfully integrated through it? And check reference customers if they have it. This is the most valuable verification step, and the one vendors are least enthusiastic about. Ask for specific reference customers running your ERP, your WMS, your accounting platform. Talk to them. Ask how long integration took. What it cost, and what they wish they had known before they started. That conversation will tell you more about the real integration experience than any technical documentation. Now that we have the framework and the three questions, let me give you a practical approach for how to sequence an automation initiative to minimize risk. Here's a practical approach I recommend to every business that's beginning or expanding an automation journey, and it applies regardless of the specific solution you choose. Um, the framework has three phases, and the most important thing to understand about it is that the phases are sequential. You don't jump to phase three before you've completed phase one and two. You get the point. The companies that try to do that, that go from zero automation to enterprise-wide full-scale deployment in one project, are the ones that generate the horror stories about failed implementations. The three phases are start lightweight, validate and expand, and scale strategically. Let me walk through each one. So phase one, I lost the button. There we go. Start lightweight. The principle here is pretty simple. Don't try to automate everything at once. Pick one process, the most repetitive, the most error prone, the one that consumes the most manual time, and automate that one thing first. Why one thing? Because starting with one process keeps the implementation scope small and manageable. It limits the change management burden on your team. It gives you a clear before and after comparison, and it generates the internal confidence and organizational learning that makes phases two and three faster and less risky and more productive, actually. There are three practical rules for phase one. First, automate one repetitive, high impact task. For most product based businesses, this is typically either goods receiving or stock counting, based on my experience. Both are high frequency, manual data heavy processes with clear error costs. Either one is an excellent starting point. Either one of those. Second, choose a solution with low setup complexity. Not because simplicity is always better, But because in phase one, your goal is to prove the concept and generate a quick, demonstratable win. So, a solution that takes 6 months to implement doesn't give you that. The third thing, measure. Before you start, establish your baseline. How many hours per week does the current process take? What's the error rate? What's the rework cost? All of those things need to be measurable. And then you measure the same metrics 3 months after go live. Those numbers are your ROI story, and they're all what makes the budget conversation for phase two much, much easier. So once phase one is working and measured, you move to phase two, validate and expand. By the time you reach this phase, as we've covered so far, you have one automated process that is live, measured, and generating actual results. Now you do three things. First, gather team's feedback, not from management, not from the implementation team, from the actual people using the system every day. What's working well? What's friction generating? What would they change if they could? This feedback loop is where you find the small configuration adjustments that turn a functional implementation into a genuinely smooth one. It's also where you identify the workarounds, because there will always be some, so you can address them before they become established habits. Second, automate adjacent processes. If you started with goods receiving, for example, the natural expansion is into stock counting, then into picking and shipping. If you started with stock taking or stock counting, expand to the processes immediately before and after it in the operational flow. The key word is adjacent. You're building a connected chain of automated processes, not jumping to an entirely different area of the business. Third, build internal expertise. By now, someone in your team understands the system deeply. That person is your internal champion, and they need to be supported, recognized, and given the time to transfer their knowledge to others. Internal expertise is what makes the system resilient. It's what allows you to maintain, evolve, and troubleshoot without being permanently dependent on the vendor or external consultants. And now, once you have validated and expanded, you're ready to phase three. Sorry, my button for some reason didn't work on the change in the slide. Anyways, so phase three, it's to scale strategically. So, and the word strategically is doing a lot of work in that phrase. By the time you reach phase three, you have multiple automated processes running smoothly. A team that has generally adopted the system, measured results you can point to, and internal expertise that doesn't walk out the door when the implementation consultant does. Now you can make much better and bigger decisions with much relevant information. The first element of phase three is connecting automated workflows across departments. What was previously automated within one team or one function can now be linked to adjacent teams. So, procurement, finance, customer service. The data captured on the warehouse floor starts feeding business intelligence at the management level. So, the picture becomes complete rather than fragmented. The second element is evaluating enterprise solutions based on proven needs, not speculation. This is the phase where you might consider more sophisticated capabilities, advanced analytics, multi site management, deeper ERP integration, RFID at scale. But you are evaluating those capabilities against real operational data, not against a vendor's projection of what you might need. Um, that's a fundamentally stronger position to negotiate from, and a much lower risk decision to make. The companies that follow this three-phase approach almost always implement successfully. The ones that skip those phases, or as I mentioned earlier, skip the phase one or phase two and just jump to the phase three to just expand, scale, and go full enterprise. Um, as I call enterprise scale deployment, are the ones generating the horror stories that again I mentioned earlier. So, with that framework established, let me show you what the right platform looks like when you apply it. There we go. Um, so we've spent the first half of this session, or maybe a bit longer, um, on the framework. So, how to think about automation decisions, how to evaluate fit, what questions to ask, how to sequence implementation. Now, let me be specific about what the right platform actually looks like when you apply that framework. There are six characteristics that a generally fit automation platform for warehouse and inventory operations will have. Mobile workflows for real operations, not a data display tool, not a lookup app, but a guided process manager that takes a worker through the complete sequence of a task from start to finish. Embedded business logic, the validation rules, the exception handling, the document controls built into the application, not bolted on as an afterthought. Also, online and offline support. Full functionality in environments with unstable connectivity without data loss, it's very important, and without requiring the worker to do anything special. Fast integration with enterprise systems. Clean, reliable, real time data exchange with your ERP or WMS, or maybe the one that you're thinking of purchasing going forward. And all of this without custom middleware that needs permanent maintenance. What else? Flexibility across multiple use cases. So, one platform that covers receiving, picking, shipping, stock counting, production movements, delivery, and asset management. Not a different system for every process. Control, visibility, and growth potential. Management dashboards, exception reporting, performance data, and the ability to scale as the business grows without platform migration. When all six are present, you have a platform that is generally fit for purpose. And let me show you what that looks like in practice. Here is the final system. Let's take a look at it. This is what the end state looks like. Obviously, we have a quick slide there, happy people doing happy things. But it is kind of important. It does cover the main aspects, I guess. So let's look at both sides of this image because they represent two very different but equally important groups of people. On the left-hand side, the warehouse worker, so they're operating a handheld device with no paperwork in sight. They're happy, every task is guided by the application, they just scan, the screen tells them what to do next. They complete the action and the system records it. No clipboard, no paper pick lists, no end of the day data entry, just a controlled guided operation that produces accurate data at every step. On the right, we have the operations manager or a supervisor. They are at a desk looking at a screen that reflects what's happening on the warehouse floor in real time. And that's very important to highlight. Real time, not some batch updates or anything like that. They can see task progress, completion status, delays, and discrepancies. All of this is live, not yesterday's report. Now, between those two people is the technology layer, on-site verification that catches errors before they're recorded, real-time data exchange between device and ERP, and accurate document status that updates automatically as work is completed. This is what automation that fits looks like in practice. The worker's job essentially gets simpler and more controlled, and the manager's visibility improves dramatically. So everyone is happy at the end of the day. And the business system stays accurate without manual intervention, which is huge. And here's what this translates to in cost terms. Let's take a look at that. There we go. So let's put real numbers on this because at some point the conversation has to come back to this actually costs and what it saves. So this table compares the operational cost of 5 approaches to warehouse data management. And I want to be clear when I say operational costs, I'm talking about the fully loaded cost of managing inventory, process documents, correcting errors, and reconciling data, including the labor time required for each. So this is a total cost of operations number, not just the software price. At the top, we have manual checking. So paper documents, visual stock counts, spreadsheet reconciliation. The monthly operation cost for a mid-sized warehouse is approximately 10 to 120,000 per year. Most of that labor is spent on processes that are slow, error prone, and require significant rework to correct when they go wrong. Excel and Google Sheets brings that roughly to $8,000 per month. You can calculate what it's going to be per year. They've digitized the recording, but the manual entry and reconciliation are still fully present. Then we have a USB barcode scanner, connected to the laptop. They walk around with it, doing the scans. The approach, it does kind of look like automation. It does solve some things, but nobody walks around with a laptop nowadays. We've got to fix that. But yeah, it actually isn't. To make it short. And even then, that comes in around $4,000 per month. Then we have a basic barcode app with lookup functionality, but no process logic, no validation or ERP integration. That still sits at about 2,500. So, Cleverance, this is us. We've come to this. We have a complete guided execution platform with built-in validation, ERP integration, workflow management, and exception handling. Brings that operation cost down to approximately $1,000 per month. So that's a 90% reduction from the manual baseline. About $9,000 saved per month, or $108,000 per year in operational costs. For most mid-sized business, this is a payback period measured in months. So let me show you the specific products that make up the Cleverance platform. We finally come here to my most interesting part that I like the most. All right. So Cleverance is not a single monolithic product. It's a suite of 5 purpose-built solutions built on one common platform. Each one is designed for a specific operational context, which means you start with the one that matches your most pressing need today and expand to others as the business grows. Cleverance Inventory, of course, is our flagship. It's the most relevant ready-made application solution for wholesale, distribution, and manufacturing operations. It covers the complete warehouse operational lifecycle, so goods arrival, pick and ship, stock taking, location transfers, inner warehouse movements, and bin level address storage. It's also very important. This is where the um, most new implementations begin and where the ROI is typically faster. Then we have store ops. It's built for retail environments. So goods receiving, stock taking on the shop floor, repricing, and e-commerce order picking from physical retail locations. Delivery ops automates last mile delivery operations. So what do we have here? Routing, delivery confirmation, and payment collection. And this is via smartphone. So it's a strong fit for direct to customer business and delivery operations. Then we have factory ops. It handles inventory movement within production environments. So raw material consumption, work in progress tracking, and finished goods recording. And assets handles the inventory and tracking of fixed assets, equipment, tools, IT hardware, vehicles, desks, office chairs, anything. And all of this is done using barcodes and RFID. 5 products, one platform. You can start where the pain is greatest and expand from there. And here's the foundation all 5 are built on. Let's take a look at that. So, at the foundation of the entire platform is Cleverance's core purpose: software for business process automation, specifically for businesses that deal with physical goods. The four pillars of the platform map directly to what we've been talking about throughout this session: mobile and connected devices. So, smartphones, tablets, rugged handheld computers put the automation layer in the hands of the workers who actually need it, wherever they are in the operation. Barcode and RFID technology provides fast, reliable identification of every item in the process, speeding up operations like inventory counts and goods receipt, while eliminating the manual data entry that creates errors. Now, real time data integration with existing ERP systems means that every transaction recorded on a mobile device flows automatically into the business system. No batch uploads, as I mentioned earlier, no manual rekeying, no end of day reconciliation. Don't need to fix up, somebody else's mistakes. It's just everything is done for you. That's the automation. And customizable workflows allow the platform to be configured to match the specific processes of your business, not somebody else's, without the cost and timeline of custom software development from scratch. This is the low-code configurability that makes Cleverance adaptable without being fragile. These four pillars together are what makes Cleverance a fit first platform designed to work with how your business actually operates, not to force your business to reshape itself around the software. And here's what the path to getting this live in your business actually looks like. There we go. So, one of the most common hesitations I hear from operations managers considering a new system is, what does the implementation actually look like and how disruptive will it be? Let me answer that directly. The process has 5 steps, just to summarize them, obviously, and they designed to move quickly without sacrificing fit. So it starts with a pre-sale brief, a focused conversation where you share your project details with us, your ERP, your current processes, the operational problems you're trying to solve, your timeline. This is not a long requirements gathering, exercise. It's focused alignment. It's a focused alignment conversation. So we understand your specific situation before we propose anything. Just like I mentioned earlier, you gotta have something to compare to before the solution has been implemented, to after it has been already, it went live and it's fully working for you. That's exactly what we want to understand at this step. What problems you currently have? What are you trying to solve? And how do you see the problem being fixed? And of course, whether we can provide exactly what you're looking for. So now, from there, you join a dedicated project chat. Direct communication with a personal project manager assigned to your implementation from day one. This is where ongoing alignment happens. Questions get answered, and the project moves forward, not through a ticketing system directly. If your start date is within 2 weeks, we run a demo tailored to your specific ERP and operational scenario, not a generic product walkthrough. A demonstration using your document types and your process flows, so you can see exactly how the system handles your reality before fully committing. Then comes a personalized commercial offer, obviously, a proposal built around your actual project scope and timeline, not a standard price list. And finally, project implementation. So the deployment, configuration, and go live of the Cleverance product in your environment with your project manager alongside you throughout the whole thing. The process is structured, it's personal, and it's designed to get you from first conversation to the system, to the live system without unnecessary delays. And here we're talking about usually 5 to 10, 6 to 12 weeks from the first touch where from the first time when we sat down and started that conversation to fully going live. If you ever had already been burned by other systems, that they couldn't make them happen within after 6 months, 1 year, 2 years. I've seen quite long implementations. This number, 5 to 10, 6 to 12 weeks, should be quite amazing for you. So now, let's get back here. Drifted off into something because I think the project implementation in a couple of months is amazing. Now, so let me show you what this looks like in the real business. We have a quick case study here today. It's a UAE company that went through exactly this process essentially. Let's go to this slide. There we go. So let me close the content section of today's session with a real world example, because everything we've talked about in the abstract becomes much more concrete when you see it applied to an actual business. APMG is a spare parts e-commerce operator based in Dubai, and if you've purchased automotive parts online in the UAE, that's a real chance you've interacted with their operation without knowing it. Their warehouse manages over 100,000 SKUs across a split storage environment. The front section handles bulky and sometimes damaged items, windshields, body panels, large components. The back section is addressed bin storage for smaller parts with thousands of individual bin locations. 17 warehouse workers, custom ERP. Let me put this through the framework we discussed today. Specific problem. So order processing was too slow. Picking errors were happening regularly. Workers were spending significant time physically searching for product rather than processing orders. As order volume scaled, these inefficiencies compounded, and the business was approaching a ceiling on how much it could grow without either hiring significantly more people or fixing the underlying process. That's a concrete, quantifiable problem. Another thing to mention here, just based on my conversation with the workers there and talking about this project, is they had issues with bins and locations. They needed a system that would suggest proper locations for their inventory. That was one of the biggest issues as well, that always caused the inventory to be at different locations that they would just put it there. The system would track it, but they needed the system that would be able to actually suggest those locations based on the product that's being received. Obviously, when we receive the product, we have to put it away. That caused a lot of friction as well. So now, the fit assessment. 17 workers, custom ERP, address storage environment with thousands of bin locations that, again, they're not being suggested properly. This is exactly the scenario Cleverence Inventory is designed for. The platform integrated directly with their custom ERP system. The guided workflow was configured around their specific receiving, placement, and order collection process. No process redesign required. Cleverence adapted to how they worked. The implementation. Cleverence was deployed on Zebra mobile computers. 1 device per worker, 17 in total. I believe they're using a bit more devices now. That's a quick reference to scalability. Everything is running. You can easily add more devices, add more software licenses from us without needing to get anything else set up at this point. You just add it on there to the system. Our system is able to handle a lot of devices. Now, the entire operation was mobilized. So delivery plan management, supplier order processing, bin placement, and outbound order collection all moved to the handheld. Real-time ERP sync was live from day one. The results are on the slide, and they're worth reading out. So inventory turnover ratio increased by 4 times. Huge. Storage capacity expanded by 10,000 square meters without a proportional headcount increase, and staff error rate dropped by 99%. That 99% figure is the one I want to dwell on for a moment. In a warehouse managing 100,000 SKUs with 17 workers processing orders all day, errors dropped by 99%, not reduced, near eliminated. That's not a hardware story, that's a validation. workflow, and ERP integration story. That's what the full system, not just the scan, actually delivers. And here's the through line to our session today. APMG chose Cleverence because it fit. It fit their ERP, it fit their physical environment, it fit their team of 17 workers. They didn't over engineer, they didn't chase the most advanced option on the market. They chose a platform that was right sized for their operation, and they got results that speak for themselves. Let me wrap up with your next step and the guide I promised at the start. Hopefully today's session was pretty interesting for you guys. All right. Before we move on, just wanted to quickly mention that after the webinar, everyone's going to receive a free PDF guide. This guide essentially just covers everything that we talked about. And it's concise, practical, directly applicable to any product-based business dealing with warehousing inventory operations. Watch for it in your inbox. It will come through to the email you register with. If you'd like to take the next step beyond the guide, if you want to have a real conversation about your specific operation, your ERP, and what fit looks like for your business, my contact details are on the next slide. And here it is. I got a new Telegram nickname. It looks good. So there it is. This is where we'll end. I'm Stan Pavlov, partner and client solution executive at Cleverence. You can reach me by the contacts on the slide. If today's session resonated, if you recognize your own operation in the automation paradox or in the APMG story, I'd genuinely like to hear about it. Not to pitch you something, but to understand your situation and tell you honestly what fit would look like for your business and what implementation would actually involve. The website is cleverence.com. Product documentation, case studies, demo requests, and the full product portfolio are all there. You can actually try the product as well. You can get a quick trial. It's fully free. You just sign up. The system automatically creates a quick database for you. You can test that out. Install it on Android smartphone. So that's that. Thank you all for your time today. Thank you for joining me. And I'll stay around for a couple of questions, but I'll slowly wrap up. So drop them in the comments if you have them, or send them through and I'll answer as many as I can live. That's it. Thank you so much once again, and looking forward to the next one. All right. Cheers. Bye-bye.